was wearing this shirt at the time that I was in love with that I do not wear anymore from this gig. This shirt is it's like a bunch of like rubber duckies floating in space. It's so fun.
Yeah.
But if you're bombing, it looks like you just look like the show must go on. Even if the show goes wrong, the show must go wrong.
Just if you could quickly introduce yourself to the audience.
Yes, hello, you. I'm Dave Adams. I'm from Australia. I'm a comedian and I'm a musician.
One of my all-time absolute favorites. Like this, I think, is the highest compliment you can give in Berlin.
Yeah,
or maybe in any comedy scene.
Let's hear it.
You're one of the few people who, if you're performing, I will actually watch and listen.
That is a lovely compliment. that is nice.
There's a few people where you're like, oh, fuck, like I'm excited to hear.
Yeah.
Even if you know the joke, you're like, I love this one.
Yeah,
you know?
oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. What's even like, and like the worst type of that is then when someone comes and like sticks around to see your set and then leaves halfway through. You're like, shit. Okay, yeah, fair enough. And every time they do, you're like, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, someone will be like, they'll say something kind of like, not that great. All right, Oscar, you really have to be quiet for this podcast.
By the way, I upset small dogs. This is a thing and babies. Babies
okay.
I think I'm a big physical presence and, having a hair and a beard, like.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
I love it. Runs to the bed like, no. That's so funny, dude.
It is. I feel like there's some sort of karma where I'm like, this is the dog I'm supposed to have. This fucking
they say
shit.
you get the dog you deserve.
But anyways, this podcast isn't about a dog. This is a human podcast.
Yeah.
And we're here to talk about bad gigs. And I'm excited to talk to you because, as you said in your intro, you're musician, comedian, and I feel like so you have two different lanes to perform badly.
Yeah, there's a heap of different ways things can go wrong. Yeah, totally.
So what was the last bad gig that you had?
Oh, the most recent one? Okay, yeah, well that's cool. We'll reverse chronologically. We did the Chili Fest with the Fuckheads 2 days ago.
The Fuckheads is Dave's band, a very awesome, hilarious band. Album coming
out this year, maybe next year. It was a great show. It's always great at the Chili Fest. We always play the Chili Fest. The Chili Fest is how the band started. It was like, Neil Numb said, can you get some sort of band together? And I said, yeah, so I thought I'd get a jam band sort of thing. But then he sort of billed it on the poster as Dave Adams comedy band. And like, oh shit, I have to bring a comedy band,
Yeah.
So I just I literally came up with the band based around the poster.
He's like, no pressure, but I need you to not just get a band together and play music, also be funny while you're doing it.
It needs to be a comedy rock band. I was like, oh shit, okay, all right. Yeah. And I'd already sort of started messing around with something during the pandemic, me and a couple of, guys were doing just rock music. It was just because, basically something to get out of the house and do. They had a recording studio and it was during the total lockdown, but we sort of decided that technically it was a workspace. You could go and do work. We would just drink beers and then we'd just write the stupidest fucking music we possibly could.
So long as at some point someone put their hand on the keyboard, you're like, that counts.
Yeah, as long as someone recorded something at some point. Yeah. I would just on my phone. We'd be in a recording studio. I'm like, yeah, I've got it on my phone. It's all right. So and then some of my comedy songs I would just start bringing to the band. I'm like, I wonder if these guys can tackle this.
Yeah.
We've been doing the Chili Fest. So the Chili Fest that happened 2 days ago, great gig. But the night before the festival, I wake up the day of the festival and there's a message.
Now, what time are you going on at the festival?
We're going on at 7 o'clock, but
Okay.
we gotta get there at like 4 to like, because we gotta like this
You
is
gotta
what
yeah.
sucks about being in a band is you have to lug fucking gear, you know, like it's like you're an artist, but then you're also like a removalist, you know,
Yeah.
like every gig is like moving house. It sucks, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas comedy, you just turn up and you know, for me, I've got a tiny little keyboard, but sometimes you don't even need that. It's so good, you know.
Yeah. At most, you're like, I have everything I'm gonna say in bullet points on my phone.
On my
like,
phone,
yeah.
so good, man. But you know, we were bringing like the PA and everything, like subwoofers, like the drum kit, man. Oh, the drums, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I always promised myself I would like, just as a singer, as a rule, I will never touch any drums ever. You know, so that way I'm not. But like these guys, you know, I'm like carrying these big kick drum, and the drummer's like smoking a cigarette. I'm like, what the fuck did I do? I'm the singer.
Yeah.
I'm carrying this fucking shit. I'm like, fuck. So yeah, we play. So I get a message in the group chat, the Fuckheads chat, and it's a picture of the bass player's foot, and he said, "Guys, I don't think I can make the show. I've broken my feet." So he says feet, right? And then
and begs the question: how does one break one's feet?
yeah, feet, right? So and then the guitarist writes back like, "Did you break both your feet?" And goes, no, just the left one. Because sorry, these three guys are Ukrainian, so English is their second language, right?
Okay.
So the first thing the guitarist says is, feet is plural. All right, let's talk about feet rather than sorry. What the fuck actually happened?
Yeah.
He was drunk. He's a fuckhead. You know, he was on the way home from.
That's how he got in the band.
Yeah, literally, and he's a great bass player too. But he's just it was some sort of drunken kebab related scenario. He like got mad about waiting too long for a kebab and then kicked a tram. I don't know exactly. I didn't want to ask.
That is fuckhead behavior.
Total fuckhead. Yeah, we've now actually come up with a new rule. We didn't think we needed this rule, but the new rule is if you have a gig the next day, you can't kick anything. The night before, just the night. But it's the one day you
That's
can't.
it. Okay. I like that. That's also where you guys are drawing the line. It's not, the problem isn't that you went out and got trashed.
Yeah.
The issue is the kicking stuff.
Dude.
So long as you keep your feet plural
Yep.
to yourself.
To yourself.
That's
Because
it.
we are called the Fuckheads, like I do like, this is the first band where I've been the responsible one. Normally I've been like sort of the loose dude, but like with these like, fucking like Eastern European lads, there's no controlling them anyway. Like they are literally fuckheads. And we did this like corporate gig a few months ago, and like sometimes if you're playing in a bar, like how much beer they give the band is an important factor in the show, because ideally it's unlimited.
Yeah.
For a rock band to play a good show, it's all fueled with beer.
Of course, yeah.
And if you
That math checks out.
yeah, like as soon as you see like drink tickets, you're like, the show is fucked. Like this isn't going to be a rock show that it should be,
Yeah.
You need to, as a rock musician, there needs to be a feeling of like permission to have fun and express yourself in a rock-like manner. You know?
Exactly. I mean, that is the rock lifestyle.
Yeah. So like we did this corporate gig a few weeks ago, and they gave us one little drink token each, to go to the bar. And I'm like, because sometimes you have to load in before the show even starts, So we're there at 4 p.m.
You have to quench your thirst just moving the gear.
Yeah, well, 4 p.m. for a 9 p.m. show. It's just like we're sitting around for 4 hours with one beer. Like, what do you think we're going to do right now? So normally, because I'm like, like I didn't even realize this about myself. Like more of a rule follower than I thought I was. I was a bit ashamed. I was like, all right, so it's going to eat into the profits a little bit. Maybe if I give them all like 2 more beers each. And then the Eastern Europeans like on their phones like, fuck this, we will go to Spedkov. So they came back with this 2 huge backpacks full of beer. We're at this corporate event and we're just like flipping sternies. We're just like, cheers. And they're like spilling beer all over the table. I'm like, oh my God, they're uncontrollable fuckheads. And they make me so nervous, but then I'm just like, you booked a band called the Fuckheads.
Yeah.
You did.
This is the bed you chose,
Yeah. Yeah.
You wanted a lumpy mattress, you got one.
Yeah. Not even, yeah. So anyway, the bass player, sends a message saying, but I think, they're going to let me out, so it should be fine.
Because he's texting from the hospital.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So it ends up he had to get like an operation. So we had no bass player. So it meant like my whole morning I'm playing the keyboard and singing. So normally I play like a little like electric piano sound, but instead I'm switching to like a Hammond organ sound, so it's the bass roll now, you know.
Okay, yeah.
So now it's just like, and we had like a 2-hour show, so I'm just like sitting there learning all the bass lines and like trying to coordinate the bass lines and my chords in the right hand and getting all the lyrics right, because that's important too. I was 3 musicians. I was like a fucking octopus. I'm just like
like those videos where it's like the person like turning the crank and the piano's playing and the cymbals are going and like
It's how I felt, man. It's how I felt.
Now, let me ask a dumb music question. As a non-music understander, for the other guys in the band, if you mastered the whole piano thing, is there none of their? It should be easy enough for them to do what they normally do, or is this an adjustment for everybody?
It's kind of like everyone's got to like dig in a little more. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Like normally like those little sections where you like the guitarist might just like sit out because the band's got it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like he has to just keep chugging, you know. We did bring a bass guitar so the guitarist could play a couple when I'm like, I can't do it on that song.
Yeah.
So we had the guitarist on the bass for a couple. Then my girlfriend played bass on a couple because she's like a new bass player. She knows like 2 or 3 of the songs that I've like taught her at home. So there were 3 bass players throughout the gig. But yeah, everyone has to do a bit more. Like the drummer's got to like the kick drum just has to be like more constant and more like, yeah, you got to try and fill this fucking gap, dude.
I also love this. Your girlfriend. It's like the band version of like Rudy. Like you're like, we're calling you up. Like,
yeah.
You're playing the Chili Fest.
Because I like told her in the morning. She was like, so who's gonna play the bass? And I just looked at her and she's like, no. I was like, you already know, this one and that one. That one. She's like, no, I don't want to. She was just coming to watch the gig. I ruined her whole day. She was like, this will be fun. And then
she was
the
like,
whole,
I was gonna catch a buzz, have a couple, have some sauces. You know,
she had to go to like some birthday before the gig. She's like, I was gonna have a few beers and get drunk for the festival. Now I have to like stay sober. And then when she arrived at the festival, she's like, I had a few beers. I'm like, that's good. It's good.
Yeah.
You gotta relax.
You can be a fuckhead if you're going up there nervous, sober.
But it was her first time like playing bass. She has bass lessons and stuff just for her hobby, But so it was her first time like playing with a band in front of like a couple hundred people. It was like, it would have been terrifying for her. She did great. She did really well. But yeah, the keyboard parts were, look, it was, and then it started to rain a little bit too. It's like it's like rain.
So you're lugging gear in the rain.
There's
rain. No bass player.
Yeah, the drummer's like having a fucking cigarette. I'm carrying all these drums. I'm exaggerating a little bit. But it was all right. It was a good show. We got away with it. I would say, But it wasn't ideal. I wouldn't call it a bad gig. I would call the day was ruined, like by just stress
just
and
a day of stress. And that's a good question then in kind of like the music versus comedy thing. If the bass player say hadn't gotten into a drunken rage that caused a kind of fight on the street with a tram, like would you spend much of the day thinking about the show? Because if you're, for me at least, if I'm doing like say my solo show, I'm gonna kind of like go over my notes a little bit, and think about my set list. But a lot of times, if I'm just going to like a mic or whatever, it's like I kind of already know what I'm gonna be doing, and then I'll just on the way over there or at the gig sometimes. Like, what bits am I doing again?
For me, it's like, I know the songs really well. If anything, like I'll start stressing about like, does the fucking guitarist know the chords to that song yet? That sort of thing. But it's like a stress that it's like, I have to like let go of it because I'm like, whatever happens. And also it's a big, loud, sloppy rock gig. Like there will be mistakes with 5 drunk men. There's going to be the occasional thing. But no, everyone else, I think, the other 3 guys, because they knew that there was no bass player, everyone sort of like really dialed it in a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you think if you make like a screw up in music, is it more or less noticeable than in like a comedy set? Because like if so like you'll as a comic you'll be like, fuck, I missed that whole tag, and then I couldn't do the callback at the end. But to the audience, a lot of times it's like the joke kind of still went off. They wouldn't have really known. And as you say, if it's like a lot of instruments, loud music, I kind of feel like probably a lot of the mistakes wouldn't be noticeable, but I don't know.
Yeah. Good question, man. It might depend on like what instrument you're playing and what part of the song, sort of thing. Like if you start the first song and you just hit like this super fucked chord on its own, and then you look guilty.
Yeah.
And it basically, I think it's like how good you are at getting away with mistakes. Like as a comedian, if you like cut out a big chunk in your head, then you're like, all right, I've cut that out. How can I get as much of that back in before, or can I use any of that later? Like, your live problem solving, whereas like a mistake, a really common mistake in like band playing is like, let's say the song before the bass player tuned down to D, like a D tune, like tune the string down, right? Then the song's over and I was clapping and you're like, cool. And he's like drinking beer. He's like, yeah, that's great. I was like, all right, next song, we'll start the next song. Then you start. And he starts and he forgot to tune it back up to E,
And so now he started the song in the wrong tune,
He's a
which
tone,
means,
yeah, exactly.
And then you have to then match him at his wrong tone.
No, you can't. No. You just have to look at him and go like, what is that? Why does that sound weird? So then like some bass players will be like, oh shit, sorry, stop everyone, stop. But another good bass player will just hit the note, go bow, bow, and then go. You know what I mean? So it's all about how you can react, because there will be variables and mistakes that happen, but it's just experiences when you start to like, if I make a mistake in a comedy set or whatever, I kind of get a bit excited. I'm like, all right, fix that.
Yeah.
It's like a fun little journey for me. Like, or can you fix it? Sometimes I'll like cut. This is a common mistake. If I'm doing a music comedy set, I'll go to sing the second verse, but I will sing the third verse instead. So I will jump ahead in the song. So then as I'm doing, I'm like, oh, you've cut a lot out here. I'm like, okay, so can I sing the second verse where the third verse goes? Or is it better to just let that verse go and just go to the outro? Like, is it going to be weird? So that I'm doing all this math in my head. There's so much goes on in your head while you're like talking to an audience and they think you're present and you're like not there at all.
Completely. That's, I think, one of the most fascinating things to me about performing is how much narrative is still happening.
Yes.
And for me, I will say also usually indicative of how well the set is going. Like the more narrative, the worse it's going.
That's right. Yeah. I remember like sometimes like even if the set's going well, but let's say I've like had a really big night the night before, and I'm like, backstage going like, oh god, I was up way too late last night. This is fucked. I'm in a lot of trouble. I'm like a sweaty mess before I even get up there. I'm like, oh. So by the time I walk up, they're like, oh, I remember like.
It's really hard to be funny when you feel like dying.
Yeah. I remember once I was like, I was at Cosmic Comedy, and, it was a big room in Berlin, and I was on stage, the show had started, and then the audience all laughed, and I went, oh, why did they laugh? And then I went, and then I thought, wait, which bit was I up to? And I went, oh yeah, that is a good bit, yeah. But I was so confused why they all
right.
laughed.
Good audience.
Oh yeah, I'm doing the show. I wasn't listening.
Yeah.
I was somewhere else. But it's just like it was just absolute muscle memory, just like going through the bits, and then like this big laugh happened that was bigger than usual. I guess I was like, what's that about?
Yeah.
And I was like, where am I? Yeah.
Do you think there's more or less muscle memory, like comedy versus music? Because I mean, imagine both. There's kind of like the flow state peak, you're just in it, enjoying it, whatever. And then various levels of, thinking, problem solving, dialoguing. Do you like, I guess, do you think there is one or the other with that? And then like, what did you started but more with music?
Yeah, I studied music, and I started doing music first. Like I was a musician forever, but when I started doing comedy, the first 5 years of doing stand up, I just did stand up. Like I didn't do any music. I sort of wanted to figure out how it worked. Like sort of treated it like learning another instrument. Just like from scratch. I don't want to like just throw a keyboard on top of it and then never really learn what it is. Also I've just always loved stand up. I've always loved comedy, and so I just wanted to like feel that thing of just getting up there with a microphone and being like, oh my God, I'm a comedian.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm doing it. This is real.
They gave me a beer and everything.
Yeah, they gave me 2 beers. and I'm like, and I'm getting an applause here without an instrument or anything. I'm not even having to sing. These guys don't even know I sing, you know? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I really wanted to fucking earn it. It was like hard. It's so hard, you know? But the flow state thing, whether it's like easier to access in music or comedy, I don't know. Like, I think it's easier to access whatever you've spent more time doing. Like, you know, I will say, like, with comedy, like when it's going really well, when you're doing stand-up comedy, there's something more relatable to it because you've been at a party where you're like talking and everyone's laughing and you're like, you've killed before, like socially while you're improvising, like you've experienced that. So there's something familiar to it, and it's so great, you know, when you're on stage, you're doing a new bit and it's just everything's working and it just feels like you're at that party where everyone just thinks you're fucking cool. But the flow state for a jazz gig, if I'm at a jazz jam or something and everything's just sort of right, I can hear everything well and the drummer is not like playing over me and I don't have to bash the piano. Sometimes I'll just like look down at my hands and I'm like, how is that happening? That's crazy. Just every now and then when I do hit that flow state, I'm like, wow, you know? And because it's a physical thing, you know? Because you're like watching your hand, and it's so weird. Like sometimes like listening back to recordings of you playing jazz, like listening to you improvise, you're like, yeah, wow, I've never played that before or played that before. Normally improvising is just you just play a bunch of, you know, a bag of tricks, just little licks you've played a million times before. But then sometimes you just catch yourself like, oh my God, that was actual...
that was actual improvisation.
That was actually jazz.
Yeah.
I actually played jazz for a second there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you started by studying music, but you're always like kind of a fan of comedy. What made you be like, okay, I'm gonna give comedy a shot? And was that here in Berlin?
It was here in Berlin. It was when my like big Australian rock band split up and everyone went back to Australia. And then I was still in Berlin and I was like, I want to do something else. I just don't want to be in a fucking band anymore. And so that's when I started doing comedy. That band's... Oh, dude, speaking of bad gigs, man, can I tell you what?
Please. That's the point of the pod.
Dude, oh my God. Where were we? We were in Switzerland. And it was like right towards the end of the, you know, it was a 9-piece band, which is just a fucking like social experiment.
That's, I feel like when people are like, we should try communism, be like, be a part of a 9-piece band for a month and then get back to me.
Yeah, fully, dude. Oh my God, absolutely, dude. And what's even worse is we were an alleged democracy. It was like, you know, because there were 9 of us. And this is why democracy sucks too, though, is because there's 9 people making a decision, and it meant that every vote was always 5-4. So it meant like, you know,
there's a real split in the band.
Yeah, you've got 4 people who are pissed about every single decision, you know. Yeah. And I was the singer of the band. I never won a single vote. and I was like, and I was trying to like whip the votes too, you know. I was like, all right, we've got Jono, we've
House
got
of Cards.
Yeah,
like.
yes. Trying to whip votes in a 9-piece band. I was like, you know,
you're like pulling the bassist aside and be like, listen, I know that you normally vote with the drum section, but I need you on this one.
Yes, dude, 100%. And like, you know, me and like, you know, whoever would be agreeing with me would be like me and the flute player. I'm like, all right, we've got Jono, we've got Trey. We just need one more, you know. And then
we just have to pull one over.
Yeah. And then, you know, we'd get to the vote, and then someone would like, you know, cross the floor at the last minute. Oh, you motherfucker. So there was like too much of that, you know. There was like too many personalities, and like, you know, drugs and everything was a big problem. And we were in Switzerland, and we played this great show, but will I say the guitarist, or keep it confidential? Let's say the guitarist. He just sort of started a phase where, like, you know, I don't think he was doing as many drugs anymore, so he was starting to like drink more instead, and he wasn't a drinker. You know when people don't drink and then they drink and they're bad at it?
Yeah.
He was like having this real like vodka phase, you know, and it was all like
one of the saddest phases to have.
Yeah, vodka phase, like, you know, just straight vodka, like, it really was like, you know, the canary starting to cough in the mine. I was like, all right, might be time to pack it in.
Vodka is the alcohol that you drink in your car during the lunch break at work. You know what I mean? Like it's the one that is the, like, this is the one that gets sad.
Yeah, and you're not like drinking it with anyone. You know, everyone else is drinking beer, and you're like, and you went from like not drinking to like, you flicked a switch, and also when the guitarist is in a bad mood and drinking vodka in a rock band, like the guitar is a fairly important instrument. This is cool. I haven't said the name of the band, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, and also, from the history of my podcast, you don't have to worry about this getting out.
Cool.
There will be maybe 13 people here in the Berlin comedy scene.
Yeah, great. So we're in Switzerland. We play this gig, and the gig goes well. But then after the show, the bass player and the guitarist get into some argument. They're like yelling at each other, and it's like in front of the audience, which is so awkward. You know what I mean? Because we've just had a great show, and everyone was like, "This is great," and like, so some of the band are at the merch table, and like we're selling merch, and like the vibe's good. We've just had a great show, and then they're like quite visibly and audibly upset at each other
on stage or off?
No, off stage, and it's sort of like just outside the venue, right?
Yeah.
And it's like it's a good while after the show. Actually, it's not straight after. And what are they? It doesn't matter what they're arguing about, but they're arguing, and then the bass player like shoves the guitarist, which was a bad thing to do, like because the guitarist is like
drinking vodka by himself.
Yeah, he's like 90% through an entire bottle of vodka, and you've just shoved him. Like, this is gonna end so poorly. So the guitarist falls over, and as he fell over, and his vodka bottle broke, right?
Which is also a real problem if you're drinking that bottle of vodka.
Yeah, but it's also a problem because what was once a bottle of vodka has become a weapon.
I did not think this is where the story was going.
And I'm sure he was never actually going to use it as a weapon. But when he stood back up after being, shoved on the ground, which is gonna piss you off if you're that, and he stood back up, and it sort of like occurred to him that he had a smashed bottle, and that he was pissed.
I have a weapon now.
Yeah, exactly. So he was like, he never swung it, but he held it in a threatening manner. So the people of Switzerland did not respond well to this.
Really, the Swiss?
Yeah,
they didn't like confrontation.
They hate they hate street violence. So like there's a real like
Did
sort
they
of
pick a side between the bassist and the guitarist?
there was so I'm in the middle of just going like, you guys are funny. He's joking. He's just joking.
This is one of his bits that he does.
Yeah, we're kind of like that. But this is an Australian thing. Yeah, this is culture, everyone. Relax. Relax, we're being cultural. So eventually, he put the bottle down. But then but it was too late. So then the venue, come over to us, and they're like, you all need to leave like right now, right? And we're like, all our music equipment is still on stage. Like, we haven't even like turned the amps off, because that's what we would do. We would finish the show and be like, we'll deal with that later, So we would like, we'll be like packing up our music equipment while we're like fucking shit faced. Like, we'd be doing this to like to roll leads. So we were like, we haven't packed any of our stuff up, and they were like, we don't care. Come back in the morning and get it. Like, it's like, we can't have this. We're like, that's fair enough. So we came back the next day. I can't even remember how the rest of the night went too. I sort of like just like trauma drank at that point. And then we drove back to the accommodation. We had a driver, we had like, we weren't like, that's it. We had like a tour manager driver guy. And he drove back to the accommodation, and just as he got in, the roof was just a little bit low, and we like, scraped like our whole roof off the fucking thing. It was like the whole next day, we had like a bike rack sort of thing on top of our van for strapping stuff. So that all came loose. So the next morning, it was just about like bolting on this thing back on before we could even get to the venue and get all like we had to do like 3 hours of like screws and bolts and shit, while the guitarist is just sitting there hungover and fucking a bit ashamed, let's say. And little did we know, he had when he fell over, when he was pushed, he broke his hand in like a million places. Like he was out of action. It was the last gig. I think it was the last gig the band played because I mean his hand was completely fucked. He had to get like micro surgery on all this sort of shit so he could like play again, you know. But he was like, that was the end of the band.
Yeah, oh shit. That's actually what an epic bad gig story. You're like, there was a gig so bad that was the last show we ever did. It killed the band.
Yeah, we never went back to Switzerland.
Yeah.
They were not so neutral. They hated us. And it was such a shame because the first time we were in Switzerland, they loved us, and the second time was like a bit of a victory lap. You know, we had more people than the first time.
Yeah.
Everyone was like pumped to see us. You know, they all knew the words to the songs and stuff.
And also I imagine as an artist, you're like, holy shit, this is how it all starts. Like, we're fucking, here we go.
Yeah, that band was like, we were on the absolute brink of doing something good, and then like just absolutely fucked it.
Maybe this is an interesting question also of like, so what do you think is the difference between, I mean, that is like a bad gig because it's just like, I mean, that isn't even really the gig in a way.
No,
it's
that's just like,
It's just like, it's the perils of being in a 9-piece.
Yeah, it's symptomatic.
9-piece band.
Yeah.
But like, what do you think makes, because I mean, obviously, I'm intimately aware of the sensation of bombing in comedy.
Yeah.
Is there an equivalent of bombing in music? Like,
No, there isn't. Bombing in comedy is very unique, and there's nothing like it at all. There is no music equivalent because in a music setting, if you're in a band, it's so easy to blame someone else. You know, like
Right.
even if you made all the mistakes, you'd be like, yeah, but if you know the drummer is doing this or something, you know, or whatever. Or even if you're playing solo in music, you always have the sound engineer to blame. The sound engineer gets blamed for everything. Like, you know, when a band gig doesn't go well, it's always the sound guy's fault. Because fold back, you know, like, you know, what you hear from the speakers on the ground really kind of like makes or breaks a musician's performance. You know, whether they can hear their own voice, whether they can hear their own keyboard coming back at them, you know, so like, if you do a bad show in a gig, you'd be like, the fallback was fucked. You know, it's like...
because, like... And could you know that the fallback is fucked? Because is it happen where you're like, it's sounding good to you, but, like, nothing much is happening out there, and then you're like, so something must be fucked because it sounds good here.
Yeah,
Why?
This is a sentence you'll hear after every gig ever. In soundcheck, the fallback was great. And then during the gig, I couldn't hear anything. You know, it's like, because in soundcheck... the drummer is playing at a normal volume, and the guitarist and bass player haven't turned up their amps. Like, that's the thing all amp players do when the show starts and there's a crowd there and they're feeling like...
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, is there also then, like, is there, like, a sound competitiveness where you're like... I want the band to sound good, but also I want people to hear the bass.
Yes,
like, I'm the bass player, and they should. The guitar's a little loud, so I'm just gonna turn myself so that
and then the guitarist turns up, so then the bass player's like, oh yeah, and then they turn up. Like you'll see like an amp like at soundcheck that out of like it'll be on 6 out of 10.
Yeah,
and then by the end of the gig they're both on 10.
Yeah,
and I'm like, so of course we couldn't hear each other. You guys are like, and then they're like, what's all that feedback coming from? It's like your guitar is twice the volume as the soundcheck. Yeah. Dude, that guitarist, man, like, you know, he would have like this big, huge guitar amp that he would have loud, and then the sound engineer would be like, so what do people want in their foldback? And he'd be like, can I have like a lot of guitar in the foldback? I'm like, oh yeah, you need the guitar coming from behind you and up here and everywhere. And he's like, yeah, put it in their foldback too. Just guitar, give everyone guitar.
Just make sure everybody hears a lot of guitar.
Yeah. For my fallback, you know, when people are like, what would you like? I'm like, I would like my voice and nothing else.
Yeah.
I'll hear them. Yeah, don't worry. Like, do you want any drums? I'm like, no. No, I'll hear the drums.
I feel the drum.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, do you want a bit of your keyboard? And I'm like, yeah, it's a good idea. Give me a bit of me. Yeah. But no, just give me as much of my voice as you can. It's a survival setting, you know, when you're in a rock thing and you've just got this tiny little shitty old speaker that's just for you and no one else. You know, it's just like, it's just about what do you need to survive a loud, chaotic mess.
Yeah. In some ways I love comedy because it's like, it's just me. And so it's like, I don't have to wait for anybody else. I don't have to ask anybody else. I just do what I want to do. But also sometimes you're like, oh, fuck, it would be fun if someone else had an idea and we were collaborating. And I just feel like if you already have that built into you in music. So do you, do you miss that when you do comedy, or is that freeing when you're doing your comedy thing to be like, oh, thank God, it's just...
It's sometimes it's nice when it's just you know what I mean? Like, and especially when it's going really well and you're like, this is all me.
Yeah.
You know, and there's something really cool about that. You're like, I'm really doing it, you know? But like, you know, like when you're like traveling doing comedy and you're by yourself, it's it can be fucking lonely, you know? Like, you know, you're spending like way too much of the day like in a hotel room going like, oh, I should be looking at the city. But then you look out the window and you're like, well, what do I need to see in Mannheim? You know, like what, you know, or whatever. You know what I mean? You do walk around and see the city, but you spend a lot of like, you know, all your meals and stuff. You like,
well, and also though, a good time to tour is the worst time to visit most places.
Yeah, that's right.
Like,
exactly.
You're like, oh, it's freezing and raining a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Where am I? You know, go to the movies. Whatever you're doing, it's all really solitary. So it's like the money is better touring solo comedy because it's like you are making all the money. But like touring in a band is just like the funnest thing ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're like in a van and like, you know, you start to build these like in jokes and stuff, and like, you know, and then after the gig you're drinking and laughing with your friends. Whereas like after a comedy show, like on the road by yourself can like kind of be sad.
Completely. That's actually the genesis of this podcast was I got booked for this corporate gig, and the woman who booked me, she was a DJ.
Yeah, great. Love it. So many words in that sentence were like, I booked this corporate gig. I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. Like by DJ. Fantastic. Where was it?
That's actually the thing that was the nightmare that they didn't tell me. They just told me this address that was near Warschauerstrasse, and I showed up and it was a boat. And they're like, we're going out on the spree.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, so I'm trapped with them?
Yeah,
if
boat
this
gigs
goes
suck,
badly,
right?
like,
Yeah, dude. Is that what happened?
Thankfully, they had me end.
Yeah.
But they also had me, the CEO went up and did like the end of year, like, this department, we had this happen, and like gave like a 45-minute speech about the state of the company.
Did they kill or
No.
It was just factual.
It was just factual.
Yeah, right.
And then they're like, and now, why don't you listen to some jokes?
Oh.
And it was just brutal.
The show must go wrong.
So, what I was saying.
I've just realized, by the way, when you were gone, I just did like a sneaky quick vape. I'm like, oh, he won't tell. And then I just remember there's a bunch of fucking cameras. You're really going to enjoy that because I was like, oh, he's coming. Such a fucking addict, man. That was so embarrassing.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. This isn't like an anti-vape
Yeah.
kind of character.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure it was fine. But I was just like, rather than I was like, can I vape in here? It's just better just like do it while you can.
Yeah. Blow it in your jacket.
Yeah. Then I looked around like, oh yeah.
You're like, oh no, he has this from 3 angles.
Yeah, exactly. I bet you if you look at that footage, I'll look a bit guilty too. This is great.
Yeah, this is fun.
I forgot about that bad thing.
So, anyways, before we did our little break there,
Okay, you're on the
break.
boat.
So I was on my first tour, and this woman who booked me on the corporate gig, she's a DJ, and she was telling me this kind of interesting thing where she was saying, she was like, yeah, I was telling her I'm doing my first tour, and she's like, oh, how's it going? And I was saying like, it's kind of like lonely. And she was like, yeah, that's the weird thing about doing something, you know, like DJing or, you know, comedy or something is like, she was like, I remember I had this moment where she was like, I played the show in Bali and it was like, you know, big club. It was great. And she was like, and they put me up in this amazing hotel. And afterwards I was in this infinity pool in Bali. And she was like, and I just looked around at the infinity pool and it was like everybody else there was just couples and I'm just by myself. And it's like, and the come down from being like, I'm connecting with 2,000 people to like, I'm just by myself. She was like, it was kind of one of the darkest moments of my life.
Yep.
And I was like, that's such an interesting part of touring that I was just kind of first experiencing, like that sad dinner by yourself after you're like, especially if it's a good show.
Yeah, if it went well, it's even sadder afterwards.
It's even sadder,
Yeah.
which it feels like it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, I know.
But then you're really just like, oh, okay, like
because you don't have the debrief, you don't have the the hang.
Yeah.
You know, what I like doing is like if I'm doing comedy on the road is with two other comedians, you know, like have a host and have an opener, you know, like just a little, so kind of like touring comedy as a band, you know.
Yeah.
That's fun because, you know, you finish the gig and you're like, oh, what about that couple in the second row? Weren't they fucking weird, you know? But instead, you know, you all these things you would talk to your comedian friends about, you're just sitting there with it over your like fucking like, you know, subway in your hotel room. You're like,
Or worse, like I was staying in hostels, which like
dude.
just a man in his 30s sleeping in a dormitory, like that's
really
the
sad.
dream.
Oh, dude, I got booked for this show. Your boat story reminded me of it. Like, you know, getting booked for something you shouldn't be there for. Sorry, how did your show actually go? But how long did you do after the CEO? How long were you meant to do, and how long did you do?
I will say actually, it didn't go terribly. Like I think I was meant to do 15 or 20 minutes, and I did 15 or 20 minutes.
Okay.
And what saved me was, and I don't think, I mean, I didn't get asked back, but what saved the moment was while he was doing his speech, I just wrote, like if anything that he said that I thought like, oh, maybe that's
smart.
And so I just started by like kind of a little bit roasting his like year-end review, because it was also very CEO like, you know, I know it's like we sold 5 million tickets last year because they sold boat tour tickets.
Right, okay.
And he's like, but like it's just important to remember behind all those memories, like it's just like happy families. And then I had taken my mother's on one of those, and they hated it.
Okay.
And so I was like,
yeah,
and
right.
it's also important to remember there's a husband and wife fighting while their in-laws are visiting. And like, you know, just like shit like that I don't think he cared for, but it kind of helped. And then I tried to do my jokes, and it was some success, some failure there, but I did the time, and
yeah, that's exactly.
And I got that. Also, it was especially for a corporate gig, it was like $150 or something.
Well, seriously.
Yeah, it was not like a great deal, but also I didn't, and still really, I'm not in the position to turn down.
Yeah, so they told you the price, or you quoted them $150?
They told me, they were like, here's the, because I think they had booked someone else, and then they had dropped out, and so
when they realized you had to be on a boat the whole fucking time for $150, yeah, because to them it's like, well, 15 minutes of saying words, like 150 should be fine. Yeah, but it's like actually how long you have to firstly come up with that 15 minutes, and then secondly like be there, you know.
Yeah, and sit through like a company's like year-end review business meeting where you're like, the whole point of me being a comedian was to never be at one of these meetings.
Yeah, exactly. It's like why, you know, I used to play a lot of like weddings and stuff, you know, like, you know, be the wedding band, and you know, whenever you like quote the wedding people a price, they're like, so we just want like 4 sets of you know, 4 hours of music, and then you say the price, and like, how could it be that much? And I'm like, because I have to actually sit there and watch your wedding all night. Because I have to be there before you are. I have to be there when the caterers are there, setting up all the equipment. I have to sit there. I have to watch the ceremony. Do you think I want to watch another fucking ceremony? Do you know how many wedding ceremonies I've seen in German? Do you know how much money you need to pay me to watch another wedding ceremony of people I don't know in a language I don't speak? Like, it's expensive. Actually, it's quite expensive. And then it's
and you're not even offering me any drink tokens.
yeah, exactly. Oh, dude, exactly. Weddings is like, it's where I tell my musicians, they're like, can we drink tonight? I'm like, go nuts. Because this is going to be boring. And also it's going to take longer too, because, you know, they say, all right, so we'll have the dance set from 10 to 11. I'm like, you will not. Because you think that the speeches are going to go for 20 minutes and they're going to go for an hour and a half. I know this because I've been to 80 weddings. You know, so it's like, I'm dealing with all these people having their first wedding. And so they think they've got this like cute little timetable, and I'm like, you've no idea what you're talking about at all, you know. Weddings, man. Thank God I've never had to do comedy.
But you were telling me about this corporate
gig.
gig.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so it was actually a birthday party, but it felt corporate.
Okay. But they hired you as a comedian or as a musician?
They hired me as a comedian, but because They offered it to another comedian first, Gino. And I think they booked Gino because they saw him do a comedy show. Gino and I have a deal, not an official deal. If I can't do a gig, or if I get asked for a recommendation, I say Gino. And he does the same for me. It's a great system. We both get each other great gigs, you know. And this was that again, you know, he was asked to do this birthday party. And so already birthday parties, like...
Yeah, I mean, it's already like, yeah, if one of my friends was like, we're hiring a comedian for my birthday, I would already be like, well, we're not friends anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's
and it
insane
was the
weird.
It was the girlfriend hiring a comedian for her boyfriend, right? And so I think they hired Gino because they had seen him at a show and liked him. And I think it was a show where he just did crowd work. You know, he just went up there and he probably spoke to them. He's like, so what's your... And then he just got in with them. They're like, this guy is fantastic, you know? So they tried to book him. He couldn't, but he shoves it over to me, right? And he goes, dude, it's a good gig too. They're offering like $300 for a 40-minute set, you know? And I was like...
But also 40 minutes at a birthday.
Yeah, exactly. But...
I feel like that's like 3 hours at a normal show.
Well, my strategy was, if it's, you know, I'm going there, I'm not an idiot. I'm thinking like, this is going to be a weird show.
Yeah.
But I'm bringing my keyboard, and if they're not laughing... I'm going to play 90s dance hits. I'm going to play Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys, you know, because I know...
Surefire.
It was a 28th birthday or whatever. So I'm like, I already know the demographic. You know, there's going to be a bunch of, like, you know, drunk girls there. As soon as I start singing, like, Hit Me Baby One More Time, that's going to work.
Yeah.
So I had a backup plan, you know.
That's a closer.
Yeah. So it's like it's like last summer in Berlin... I've just gotten back from Australia, and I was wearing this shirt at the time that I was in love with that I do not wear anymore from this gig. This shirt is like, it's like a bunch of like rubber duckies floating in space. It's so fun.
Yeah.
But if you're bombing, it looks like you just look like the fat, sweaty duck man. Because it was such a hot night, and so we
bombing in a fun shirt.
I know.
So
Exactly.
That's why I stopped wearing tie-dye, because I was always like, I'm a hippie. I always wore tie-dye.
Yep.
And then you bomb in tie-dye and you're like, I'm a 34-year-old man. Mm-hmm. And no one is laughing while I wear a 12-year-old's t-shirt.
Yes, like I looked like the clown at the kid's birthday party that everyone hated, you know? Because I'm wearing this fucking shirt, and it was so hot in the room, you know, like, because Berlin rooms are not set up for hot nights, and it was like, so this party, like, it was in like a nightclub, but it was in the back room of the nightclub. So when I arrived at the venue, I'm like, hi, I'm the comedian, and there's a security person, and I'm like wearing this like rubber ducky shirt, and I'm like, I'm the comedian, and he's like, what? And I'm like, oh, I'm the comedian for the party.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's no comedian. This isn't I said,
there's no comedian, and you will never be allowed in this club in that shirt.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. I know, right? So even before I get in there, everyone's like, I hate you. I'm like, no, I have and I said the name of the contact of whose birthday it was. He's like, oh, birthday party? I'm like, yeah. He goes, right, you need to go all the way through the fucking thing, right? So I have to like navigate all my way through. I get to like this, like the nightclub is full, and then I get to like this back room, and it's like even more full for the birthday, you know? And so I get there, and they told me like there'll be microphone and stand and all this stuff, so just bring your keyboard. And so what I normally do is, it's a little keyboard, I just find a bar stool and put it on a bar stool and just play, right? There is not a bar stool to be found. there are no seats, you know. It's like it's a nightclub, you know. I'm like looking for anything. There is nothing, right? So the only thing I could find was like this tiny little, like I guess like almost like a footrest, you know. I would say that was
ottoman.
It was the only chair in the building. It was like right. So and then I'm asking for so that's going to be my seat, and I'm going to have my keyboard on my lap. That's how I'm going to do the gig. Like, so I'm like sitting like basically on the ground with my tiny little keyboard. And
and you're wearing a rubber ducky
t-shirt. Yeah, and the shirt is not big enough for me. My tummy is hanging out. Yeah. And It is hot in that room. The room would have been 40 degrees. I've just come back from Australia. I've got a huge beard, huge hair, and I am like already sweaty. But then like the situation is making me panic sweat. So it's like it's like comedically like it's dripping from my hair onto my keyboard. Like my keyboard is soaked, right? So I'm trying to like set up. Like, you know, but no one's wanting to help me. So here's the thing. There's so many people at this party. And there's like just tables of food. There is so much food everywhere. And then I'm looking around for a mic stand or someone to help me. And then I go into this next room. And there's more people for the party. And even more food. And there's like, all the food, I'm like, what I'm noticing is that no one is eating the food. Like, there is so much food and no one's eating. And I'm like, why is no one eating the food? I'm looking around. You figured it out, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's on coke. It's like, this is like a party scene. Of course we're in a nightclub.
Yeah.
Like
you're in the back room of a nightclub.
Yeah, I'm like, this is a party crowd. So of course Gino would kill this show. You know what I mean? He'd get up there with a microphone and like, hey, you know, you fucking idiot. You know, like, and just roast them. I think they wanted a comedian to come in there and just go bang, bang, bang and roast. But I'm like, oh, I need a microphone stand, and what can I plug my keyboard into? I had this stupid little red keyboard, and I was like, it was one of the most horrific professional moments of my life, and so I finally I'll get my little thing, I get the stand I need. It was in the attic. Someone had to go up to the attic to find me a microphone stand. So I'm plugging in my keyboard and everything.
At this point, is the girlfriend? Is she kind of trying to help shepherd this? Or
no, absolutely not. No, I'm just dealing with the venue now. The venue's like, what? Who are you? And I have to explain what's going on. Like, she like said hello very briefly and then introduced the birthday boy to me, and he was like, oh, I love comedy. I can't wait for this, you know. And I said, is this like,
are people gonna care?
Yeah, are you sure? When I'm there, right? So before me, like, the vibe is there's a bunch of just really hot, cool young people are all like dancing, and it's a nightclub vibe, but with mountains of food. And the DJ is like this cool Japanese chick, and she's like got the headphones on the shoulder. She's like, and
wait, they were already having. Is this the DJ in the main club, or is there another DJ?
Birthday DJ. Yeah.
They had already. That's not the right order. That's really not
exactly.
the right order.
It was the DJ for the night, let's say, but it's just like this intermission.
All
right, so
fuck.
Dude, all right. So,
I'm getting sweaty thinking about this.
Wait.
Yeah.
So I go to like, I put my keyboard on the thing and I turn around to like get like a lead out of my bag, and then I turn around and my keyboard is gone, right? And I'm like, where is it? And then I look at it and it's like moving away from me. No one's touching it. It's moving because I've put it on the revolving dance floor. The dance floor had just started to revolve. It wasn't revolving before. Someone has flicked this switch in the meantime. So then I'm trying to like ask someone like, so how do we turn the revolving dance floor off? And everyone's like, I don't know. We've never seen like staff like we've never seen it move before. It's crazy. So then someone goes like, do you want to perform on the revolving dance floor? And I was like, no. No, I at least knew that won't work. Yeah. So I just had to push myself back into the corner more so I wasn't in the way of the revolving dance floor. So when the show finally happens, you know, I'm just there.
Is there someone getting on a microphone being like, guys, we got comedy going now?
So that's what happens, right? So the birthday boy gets up, you know, takes my microphone, and he goes, well, what's your name again? and I go, it's Dave Adams. I say it really clearly. I'm like, can't fuck that up, you know. And he goes, all right, guys, cut the music. And the, you know, cool Japanese girl DJ's like, what? It's almost like, you know? And he goes, hey guys, I just wanted to say thank you all for coming up to my fucking birthday party. And I was like, yeah, because everyone's so high on coke, right? It was like, yeah. And he goes, since I moved to Berlin 6 months ago, I just want to say that there are two things I love about Berlin. And he goes, partying with you animals. And everyone's like, yeah. And he goes, and stand-up and these like two like really hot girls standing over there. They're like 22, 23 years old. One of them goes to the other one, like goes, "Oh no." Oh no. So my girlfriend wanted to book me, one of my favorite comedians in the Berlin scene. He was unavailable. yeah. He was unavailable. But we have, and then he goes, "Sorry, what's your name?" And I go, "Dave Adams." He goes, but we have Adam Davids. Like, I just said it. I'm like, okay, sure, I'll be Adam Davids, fine. And that was a 40-minute set. So I like, as he was introducing me, I'm just like, this is so bad, you know. So I go to like start my like first thing, and then
And so just to be clear, everybody's standing up.
Standing up.
They've gone from
They're all
coked
standing
out, vibing to a DJ.
Yeah.
And now they're like, someone's asked them to be like, "Can you listen for the next 40
Stop
minutes?"
having, and he said 40 minutes too. He goes, "All right, we're going to have some stand-up comedy for the next 40 minutes. And people are like, oh, I was like, why did you tell them how long it was? Why did you guys pick 40 minutes too? Like, you know.
There's so many mistakes.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, the like at a nightclub, just having comedy at your birthday already.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. Gino would have killed. I honestly think someone who could just do like hot, flashy crowd work might maybe.
I mean,
maybe
I love
would have gotten
Gino
away with
and
it.
I believe in him, but I honestly think Bill Burr could have gone into that and
Yeah,
it
I
would have
hope,
been a disaster.
I hope
Like,
you're right, man. Yeah.
I mean, standing already like a problem.
Yeah,
A big
all
problem.
standing around the revolving dance floor, so I couldn't even have anyone near me. And also, anytime I would tell a joke and no one would laugh, you would just hear the mechanical. It was the loudest thing in the room.
And no one wants to go from like dancing to a DJ
Yeah.
to listening.
Yeah, to this fucking rubber duck shirt idiot was sitting down. Yes, dude.
No.
Yes, sweating bullets in this hot room.
fuck.
It's like the best part of the show. Everything went terribly. No one laughed at all. I will say the one thing that sort of got me through it was there were these like 3 English guys up the back because I started doing crowd work out of absolute panic.
Yeah.
You know. Not a crowd work dude. I just hate it. But these 3 guys up the back are from England, and they are just laughing at how badly it's going. You know, so like I finally like have a little like life raft there. I'm just like, well, I do a joke to these people, like still trying to get them on, and nothing. And then the guys at the back are like, the 3 guys up the back are like, oh fuck, and I'm like, oh, I know, right? I'm like,
It's also such a perfect portrait of how desperate and sad it is to do comedy.
Yep.
Where you're like, even 3 people who are like laughing that it's going so badly, you're like, thank you.
yeah,
I
honest-
need that.
Yeah,
Like-
honestly, the fact that they were laughing at me, I was so glad they were there. So it's, and then I'm trying
So
to
you're
get
trying to do gig. You open. What did you open with?
my normal shtick, because I always say, like, you know, when the room is weird, I stick to the script, stick to the plan, do what you would do. And so I'm like, you know, you'll get them eventually. Just don't veer off into panic town. Do the material that has worked for years. You know, just do it. Something will hit, and when it hits, you'll earn trust, and then you'll build confidence.
momentum.
Yeah, I was just like, stick to the script. Script wasn't working, so I'm like, plan B, which was, I'm gonna sing Britney Spears and Backstreet Boys shit. We're not gonna do stand up, you know.
Yeah.
So so I'm just like, you know what? And I just start playing "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time," and then all the girls like, oh, this is fun. We're having fun.
Now this is funny.
Yeah. People are like getting on the revolving dance floor. The dance floor has a use now. And I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do for 40 minutes then, right? But so at that moment, I'm getting to the outro of that song. And the birthday boy, who's already introduced me as Adam Davids, the comedian, he looks at all his friends, like he's sitting up the front. And he goes, the fuck? What? You know, and he's the guy paying me, you know? So he's like, he's visibly like, what? And I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm like, so I stop. I'm like, And then I like do a like, you know, free Britney. Oh, wait, we already did. Should we have done that? I'm like, so I did it as like a joke out of it, you know. And then he's like, oh, that's better. But then all the girls are like, why are you being mean to Britney? And I'm like, I'm back into I'm back into bombing. I had this like 2 minute of like sweet spot where I was like, we're gonna do it.
We can do this.
And then the guy paying me was like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, oh shit, I'll go back to bombing then.
Yeah.
And then so as soon as I went back to the jokes and stuff, he was like, oh, that's better. And then like he realized that he didn't want to be there anymore, so he walked away. So I'm like, all right, so what do I do now? So then I just looked at my phone. I'm like, I'm 12 minutes in. Well, I'm just going to...
no. All of that happens in the first 12 minutes. Okay.
Then the last song, whatever I did last, I can't even remember now. I got up to like near the end of the song, but then I saw it hit 40 minutes. And I just like stopped me, called. I'm like, thank you, good night, thank you. I didn't even finish the last song. I was like, thank you, bye. Well, the best moment of the show was, you know, I was like doing, you know, talking in between songs, trying to set up the next song, trying to get anything, trying to do my impressions. It's always you know, you always know it's a panic when I'm doing impressions, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, one of the girls just comes on stage and just gives me a glass of water because I'm so visibly sweaty and in a bad, and she's like, here, please. And then everyone's like, woo, like, you know, finally, like, you know, am I right? Like, everyone's like clapping at the fact that someone handed me a glass of water. And I was like, so I'm like about to sip it. And then like, you know, but I'm getting some traction because people are clapping and then I say something and it gets a bit of a laugh. So then I'm like, so then I get a bit distracted. I'm like, this might be working. I'm getting something. And then another girl goes, drink the water. Right? And so everyone's really like, drink the water, like, you know, they're not cheap, but they're just like, and so I'm holding it. I'm like, this glass of water is the best thing I've got in this whole room. You know what I mean? Like, I have something here. Yeah. You know. So I'm like, oh, okay, and then I was like, go to drink. I go, no, no, and so everyone's like, kind of like, because they're all on coke too, so they're all just like obsessed with me drinking this water now. I'm like, I have a bit of leverage here. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but I have something here. So I said, all right, listen, I'll drink the glass of water, but when I do, I need you guys to go fucking apeshit. Like, so that I can tell all my comedian friends that the best bit of the show was when I drank a glass of water. Right? So I'm like, are you guys ready? And then I was like, anyone do a countdown? Like, 3, and then so people started to count 3, 2, 1, and then I did it. I drank the whole thing, and then they're all cheering as I'm drinking it. And as I drink it, then I did the thing where I put it on top of my head, like I was a legend for finishing the glass of water. But also because I was already so wet from sweat anyway, I was just like, it's good to make it look like it was
like
water.
The duckies actually would like a little extra water.
Yeah. So I was like, I've got for like a little moment that I had it, and then like as soon as I tried my material again, they were like, it's, you know, stop.
Yeah.
So
they're like, someone get him another glass of water.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
I love that guy's water stuff.
Yeah. The water bit, man, that was epic.
So right after the gig, right, so I hit the 40 minutes and like, you know, and the birthday guy comes back up to me and he's like, he's freshly powdered, you know what I mean? He's like in a good mood again. He's like, dude, that was amazing. That was so good. And
that's actually a good thing about Coke, though, is that you're like, you need it. Like, because imagine if you went through that and afterwards he's like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah,
like,
I know.
It was my fucking birthday. You did the thing. Like, you needed Coke positivity there.
Yeah, I know. I at the same time, if there was no Coke there, maybe the show would have gone better. It's hard to say.
True.
Or maybe if like I'd been given Coke, then I could have like delved into the consciousness of the room or something. You know, just got a bit more collective with it, maybe. But I was so sober for what was happening. So he goes like, that was hilarious, and I'm like, okay. So you enjoyed that? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, fantastic. I said that was all I was after. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. And then he goes, then he's flicking out this like big wad of cash, and he goes, so it was $250, was it? And I'm like, it was $300, but I will accept anything. But I'm like, it was $300, but I would understand that you would want to pay $250 for that. And he goes, no, if it was 300, it was 300. And I was like, fuck, I should have said it was 400. You know? But how quickly this guy had like 5-10 grand in his hand. It was like a stack like that. Paid me in hundreds.
Well, I was wondering, like, that was the facts that always stick out to me are weird. Like, I'm like, so it's your 28th birthday and you're paying 300 euros to have a comedian.
I'm fairly certain it was like Russian mafia is what it felt like.
Okay.
yeah, it was mafia. It was the whole thing was like organized crime, something, because like the amount of food there was like, to me, I'm like, this is like 1,000 euro
catering.
Yeah. So much of it, and no one's eating it. That's how like these guys are living. So like, you know, everyone there was wealthy. Everyone there was in organized crime. Everyone there was like, you know. So I did look like the fucking clown. You know, like like I was there to be not respected.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I think like a comedian who went in there and started like, you know, roasting everyone. I should have just gone in there and roasted everyone, but I just wasn't wearing the right shirt.
It is hard to roast in a rubber ducky
Yeah, exactly.
T-shirt.
I was the fucking pinata.
Yeah.
You gotta know when you're the hammer, when you're the nail. It's a great job. You know, the whole thing is so fucking ridiculous. You know, like the fact that you would be paid any money at all for this, you know, is wild. And I love how hard it is. You know, there's this thing, just the fact that you can bomb at your job. You know, the fact that you can be like doing what you do, and it can go so awfully, and that still somehow be a part of the process and somewhat okay. You know, like bombing is important, because if this wasn't hard, everyone would do it. You know, like it has to be hard so that you have to love this to do this. You know.
Well, so this is the last. We can wrap up here, but I have one last question, which I feel like goes into that nicely, which is because I also think that's one of the exciting things about comedy is a comedian said to me once, we were like talking about, you know, whatever the thing and getting better, and he's like, well, luckily we've got 40 more years to try to figure it out.
Yeah.
And one thing that I'm interesting that I think kind of ties into the bad gigs is, I think when you're doing a career in the arts, it's like you have these moments where you kind of like, it's so much forward, like up the mountain, you're not looking back. And I think with that, you have this kind of false summit thing where you're like, this is a thing. Yep. This is big. I need this to be big. Like, here you go. And then you do it and you're kind of like, that was also just something else. And actually it's not that big of that didn't really change something. You know, like for me, I got into this comedy competition last year, and it's kind of prestigious, and I was like, okay, this is a big opportunity. I spent the whole summer stressing about it. Yeah. And I went and I learned something, you know, about myself, performing, whatever, but also it was not what I thought it was going to be. And so have you had any moments like that in comedy or music that were kind of you felt like, oh shit, here we go, and then you look back, and you're like, oh no, that was just another gig or another thing.
Constantly, man, constantly. There's no like one moment that happened. That happens all the time. You know, you, as a performer, you know, you have to like live off these milestones, you know, and you have to have these things looking forward to, and you have to have something to work forward to, because that, like, you know, motivates you. Because artists, you know, deal with fucking like crippling laziness or whatever else you want to call it, like, you know, anxiety or something, or like, you know, imposter syndrome or something, you know, whatever you want to call it, but like something that stops you from just like going for it. So you need like these like goals and dates to be like, all right, I need to fucking kill then, and so I need to do everything I can to prepare to it, and then you can, and then like the gig is like, you know, it rains at Chili Fest or whatever, and then it's not the big fucking thing you thought it was, or whatever, you know, like, or, you know, the record label people that were going to come to the gig didn't come to the gig, you know, so it's like, you know, it's constant disappointment or letdown, and then sometimes it's these small shows that you weren't thinking about at all, and then like some contact was there, you know, it was like, hey, you were great, do you want to come and do these rooms here? And you're like, oh fuck, I was just like, I didn't even shower, and this was a huge night for me.
I would have washed my hands if I'd known you were here.
Yeah, I would have, you know. So it's like, you never know when it's happening or not. But like, I've just sort of learned, you know, like to try not to get too excited about this put all your eggs into this night coming up, and then, you know, especially, man, like a competition or something like that. Like I used to play in like Battle of the Bands in high school, and we always used to think, oh, if we win this one, then we go to the regionals, you know, and then we'll be a good rock band, you know. It's you know, it's all about small steps and just like enjoying the actual process. I think this is the best part. You know what I mean? I'm really not thirsty for the next part. I'm like, I'm paying my rent with my gigs now, and that was already something I just never thought would happen, or I hoped would. And so it's just like everything else on top of this is just bonus. But this is great. I'm having so much fun living in Berlin and just like making people laugh and traveling around doing gigs. Like, fuck yeah, this is so good, man.
Yeah, I do think that's something I also try to think about. Is it's like there at some point you're gonna look back at this era and be like, fuck.
Yeah, these are the good old days.
These were the good old.
Yeah,
those were the good old days. Well, dude, this was super fun. Thank you so
awesome,
much.
Dude.
And do you have anything you want to promote or something? I mean, obviously, I'll put whenever this comes out the links to whatever you tell me.
Look out for the Fuckheads. We'll be releasing the album some point in like September, October, or November, December, January. So, I don't know. At some point, the Fuckheads. We're Fuck the Fuckheads on Instagram, or I'm Dave Adams on Instagram. What's my new name?
Bad boy.
You're bad boy, Dave
bad
Adams.
boy, Dave.
I changed that for the roast battle.
Yeah.
I have to change it back. It's like so bad for the. You got to start with your name. It turns out. Yeah, like
who would have known?
I know when people are at gigs, they're like, "So what's your name on Instagram?" And I'm like, "Yeah, bad boy, Dave Adams." It used to be Dave Adams Has Feelings, which is kind of funny, but then it was also not working either because people were like, "Oh, are you okay?" Like, no, it's a joke. Yeah. Like, oh, so you have feelings? I'm like, oh, I'm so sick of this conversation. It's just gonna be Dave Adams.
Also, now all of your stories, I'll like imagine an alternative universe where you're wearing the rubber duck shirt. And
oh
like,
my god, dude.
And they're like, "What's your Instagram?" And you're like, "You bad boy, Dave Adams."
Oh, you know what? If anyone is watching, go to my Instagram, scroll down a little bit, and I've got a podcast with an Australian friend, and I'm wearing that shirt.
Okay.
You'll see it. You'll know it's a great
clip.
shirt, man.
Yeah.
It's like because it's black because it's space, but the ducks are very yellow. You know. But it's not like it's a good shirt, but just in that context. And then I've gone to like
actually we're gonna have a link to the shirt as well.
yeah, link in bio. Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Dude, that was super fun. Thank you.
The show must go on, even if the show goes wrong.